No, that was a new
I'm good.
New definition. So, Spuddy, what sort of a day have you had, mate?
What's the luck?
I would struggle to think if I've ever had a tougher day than that, ever. Not just running, but I don't think. I've never. That was beyond my comprehension difficult. I don't claim to be an expert, and I knew that this was going to be tough. But when we crossed that bridge and started going up that hill, I think it took me longer to get up the hill than it took some people to race the whole stage. I think I was out there for like maybe 2.5, 3 hours or something, just going straight up. And so not only was I not mentally prepared for it, I didn't know that it was going to be that steep and that long. But I have to be honest, I wasn't physically prepared for it either. I can run 100 Ks, and I've done a few decent sort of ultras, but if I was going to sign up to do an event like this and be aware of what was involved, I'd have to train a lot harder and better than I have.
Yeah, but you are a tough nut. You have done North Face, which is not a walk in the park, and you're finding this more difficult. Is it the altitude, the breathing?
Yeah, look, there's two parts to it. There's no question that my particular weakness is ascent, and there's just been stupid amounts of it here, more than I understood there to be. I don't want to look like some idiot who signed up for a race, without looking into it, but I studied the numbers as best I could, and for whatever reason I didn't really appreciate. Yesterday I thought there was 1,000 metres of ascent, and from where we started to where we finished there were, but then I hear it was actually 3,000 metres total ascent, and I think in North Face I think there's 5,000 over 100 Ks, and that's it. And this was one stage with 3,000 in what 40 odd Ks. And then as I got higher, and I'll be honest, I didn't. It's a huge relief to me to have the doctor look at me and tell me that there's actually something wrong. Because when he said my lips were blue, as pissy as I was to hear that, I went, oh good, I'm not just being soft. Because I honestly thought maybe I'm just being a bit of a wuss. Everyone's puffing hard, and that's what happens when you run up the side of a mountain for 6 hours or something. And so whilst I'm not delighted to hear that I'm whatever the definition is, hypoxic or whatever it is, and there's a real chance that that's going to finish my race today, which I'm kind of gutted at. Part of me is just relieved. I just couldn't handle just going and sleeping in a bed and having a shower and not running up any more cliffs. But that was of some relief to know that as shattered as I was mentally, there was also something physically going on that was probably contributing to that.
Yeah, and that's something you can't prepare. Like altitude sickness and HAPE and haste can hit anybody, no matter how fit you are. Right. And there's no way you can predict that. So heading in, like if you don't go home tomorrow and you do carry on, how are you feeling about going up to 5,000?
Yeah, look, weirdly enough, the body actually feels really good. Like my legs and, all my muscles and all that sort of stuff feels good. I guess I need to get some advice that says, if this is not dangerous and I can just put up with it and puff and I'm not left, 3 days behind because I'm so slow, I'm pretty keen to get all the way to the end, even if that means that there's a few sort of like offshoot bits to the route, and even if I shortcut those, I've never DNF'd a race ever yet, and I don't really want one on my CV, but if ever I was going to DNF one, this would be one. I guess to answer your question specifically, if this is how bad it feels at whatever altitude we are now, I don't know, 3,000 or something like that, if it gets worse at 5,000, then clearly I'm going to be in a bit of shit.
Your dark moment. Can you just
you
talk...
want me to say that I cried, don't you?
No. I just want you to talk me through it. Like what was there? What tipped you from being pissed off to having that emotional outburst? Just talk me through that.
Yeah, look. I don't know. I see people, in races who get all emotional, and I've never done that before. I get emotional. I go, you bloody beauty, I've finished. But I've never shed a tear in a race that I can think of. I've spewed at the end of a race. I've, done all kinds of things, but I've never had a sook. And I just broke down today. The mountain kicked my ass, and I got halfway up, and I needed to call someone to make sure that I had a buddy. My buddy runner had gone ahead. I was going a bit too slow, and I was lucky enough that Imran, who's a British Gurkha, so I was in good company there. He came back for me, no man behind, thank God. And, you know, we sat down and he said, look, just have a break and have a breather. And I just bloody burst into tears, to be honest. And I think I went from being exhausted and tired and frustrated and angry. I mean, I'm you know, I guess you're not going to put this in, but, you know, I'm angry that my understanding of this race was completely different to, you know, what it is. And I think that feeling was probably despair because, you know, the pull-out point was probably this morning where, you know, you could go back if you wanted to and there's villages and all that, whereas now, you know, it's kind of, you're in the middle somewhere and you go, shit, do I keep going? Or, you know, I can't handle the idea of going back from here because it was so tough coming up, but might actually be more dangerous going back. So yeah, I just lost it, and that's a bit. I'm quite angry about that, by the way. I mean, I fancy myself. Oh, I fancy myself as being, you know, a bit of a tough. You know, I can't wear black nail polish and, you know, have a stupid haircut, but I fancy myself as being kind of tough. You know, that having a bit of mental toughness, and, you know, I ran North Face on one leg, you know, for 80 k's. You know, it's not something to brag about, but you know, it's just a statement of fact. I did my knee at the 20k mark, so I fancy that I'm pretty resilient and all that. But today was just like nothing I'd ever experienced, and knowing how far there was to go. And I mean, I was, you know, when we started the day, I was, you know, it's 18 k's, I thought, and I thought even if I only do, you know, 3 or 4 k's an hour, I'll be all right. I mean, I was probably doing 1k an hour for 3 hours or something. I mean, so seriously, I covered 3, you know. A newborn baby could go faster than that, you know. One-legged man, I don't know, like, you know.
But it's vertically up.
That's well, that's the problem. You know, I mean, I probably went a
vertical.
kilometre up and about 400 metres forward, you know. So, you know, and, you know, as I was coming down and then going back up and coming down, you know, I mean, I just, you know, you roll through all the things in your head. And the worst bit is from the time you take the turn off to this monastery, you know that you have to go back the same way the next day. And, you know, every time I took a step downhill, whilst I enjoyed the downhill more than the uphill, every single step I went, shit, that's a step up tomorrow. And, you know, that is just crushing. You know, I mean, I guess you have a, you know, good night's sleep and all that sort of stuff, but the idea that you're going to have to go out there and do that exact path in reverse the next day, that is brutal.
I mean, I've bowled on a lot of races. In fact, there's not many races I haven't bowled in.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a measure of toughness not to cry and not to break down. A measure of toughness is if you get back up again and you carry on to the end of the day, to be honest. Otherwise, I'm the biggest silk marshmallow there is.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, look, this is going to sound horribly sexist, but I'm a bloke, you know, and I'm an Aussie bloke, so Aussie blokes don't bloody cry, mate. You know, it's as simple as that, isn't it? You know, Chris might have that time, and you know, but you know, he can at least turn around and say, yeah, but I could have died, and then people go, oh, I cried, nearly died. Okay, yeah, that's kind of, you know, that's fair enough. Me, all I did was just be a wuss, you know. You know, admittedly for, you know, 500 hours of ascent and descent that I hadn't expected and trained for. But, you know, you're right. Well, and this is part of the problem, right? Part of me goes, oh my God, if they tell me I have to go home on a helicopter, I'm secretly going to go, yes. But outwardly I'm going to go, no, I want to go on, just so that people think I'm, you know, like, I want to go on, but they made me go back, and then, you know, I just go, oh man, the helicopter's just going to just be, I'm going to just look out the window and, you know. So I have real mixed feelings. You know, part of me goes, shit, if I can dust myself off, have a good night's sleep, get some food into me and all that, and then get back up tomorrow and, you know, maybe do a bit of a shortcut or an adjustment to the route and get back, I mean, I'd be super pleased with that. But if the doctor says I have to go home, then it's a bit of a let off, isn't it? It's not me going, oh, could you just call me a helicopter, and I'll just kind of call it even, hey? Call my 7 days, 3 days, and, you know. I did like the fact that when I came across the end line, you know, I could barely breathe, I could barely walk, but I made sure someone checked me in.
Yes. Still got the ambition going.
Yeah, so I've at least, you know, finished 3 stages, and I suppose my friends are all going to go, shit, if you had to go home or you had to pull out, then it must have been tough.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, there's mixed feelings about that, obviously.
Totally understand that. Totally. Anything else?